Thank you for joining us for Face the State this morning. I'm Tracy Townsend. This week, Norfolk Southern CEO will testify before the Senate about the toxic train crash in East Palestine, Ohio. This comes as U.S. senators from our state introduced the Railway Safety Act of 2023. Now, this bill calls for enhancing safety procedures for trains carrying hazardous materials, establishing requirements for wayside defect detectors, requiring at least two-person crews, and increasing fines for rail carriers when they break the rules. U.S. Senator J.D. Vance says it's vital that the people of East Palestine don't feel forgotten.
I think the only way you can do it is to keep on talking about the issue, and for me as a senator to continue to apply pressure to the company, Norfolk Southern, and to the relevant federal authorities so that people don't get left behind. I certainly talked to a number of people from East Palestine. We're in constant contact with folks on the ground. You're right. They're terrified they're going to get left behind. We're going to do everything in my power to make sure that doesn't happen. But again, there has to be concrete, I think, actionable things that we can do for East Palestine, and we have to stay on top of that. You know, we have to consistently test the air and the water, not just next week, not just next month, but I really think years in advance. We have to make sure people get the health screening they need so they're confident they are healthy and their families are healthy. And like I said, we need to make sure that East Palestine gets the financial support it needs to get back on its feet.
Senator Sherrod Brown will also testify at that same hearing as the Norfolk Southern CEO this week. We asked the senator what he wants to come out of the meeting.
What I want to hear from him is that he is going to live up to all his obligations, that he won't oppose my Brown-Vance rail safety bill, and that he will live up to the promises they've made to make people whole. I mean, they need to reimburse people for their hotel stays because they fled their homes, for the cleaning of their homes before they move back in. They need to reimburse the local community for replacing or moving its fire station. They need to reimburse for all the testing, and they need to look down the line 5-10 years from now when people may very well have bronchial illnesses or cancers caused by the breathing of this stuff and the drinking of the water. So I want to hear from him, from the CEO of Norfolk Southern, that he's going to do the right thing.
Governor Mike DeWine went to East Palestine again over the past week to talk with the people there. He toured the crash site and saw that cleanup efforts were happening firsthand. He laid out several goals for the state's response.
Number one, we continue to hold Norfolk Southern accountable. Their railroad, their train, their responsibility. Number two, we intend to continue to focus on the safety of the people of East Palestine every single day, and we will continue that every single day. We will continue, number three, to test the air. Number four, we'll continue to test the water. Number five, where appropriate, we will test the ground. We will test anything else that needs to be tested. Number six, we will continue to report those results as we get them. We will continue to tell you what we know, and we will tell you what we do not know. Seven, and finally, we intend to continue to take a holistic approach to this community and the tragedy that they have suffered and the trauma that they have suffered. By holistic, this is what I mean. When I talk to people in the community, the number one thing that is expressed to me is their desire to get back to where they were, get back to normal, live their lives. And that includes all the things I've said, but it may include other things as we look forward to go forward for this community to continue to thrive.
The toxic materials from the derailed train are being shipped to various locations in and out of Ohio. However, leaders in those locations claim they were kept in the dark about the dangers. Chief Investigative Reporter Bennett Haberly shows us how the EPA is trying to rebuild trust.
Truckload shipments of contaminated soil and liquid waste from the train derailment site were temporarily paused over the weekend after concerns were raised from states where those materials were being sent. Tuesday morning, Indiana's governor tweeted that he continues to object to the EPA administrator's decision to move hazardous waste from the East Palestine train derailment to Indiana, adding that there's been a lack of communication. EPA Administrator Michael Regan was back in town Tuesday and was asked about those shipments.
What we are doing is working on an alert system so that Norfolk Southern can be held accountable. And as this material is moving, the appropriate authorities have the appropriate information so that the communities are not alarmed and that communities know that their safety is being taken very, very seriously.
10 Investigates was there as the truckloads of hazardous waste were being loaded up last week. They're being shipped to at least 3 facilities in Ohio, including one in Sandusky County.
I personally wish that we maybe would have had a couple of days sooner to know when the loads were going to start. That way we could have just done a little bit more educational outreach to our residents.
That county's EMA director said her concerns were quelled, however, after learning that most of the materials being shipped in her county involved overflow water from firefighters' foam used to combat the fire after the train derailed. What did you see that night?
Just a lot of smoke and fire.
Scott McAleer witnessed the derailment. He lives a few houses away from where chemicals like vinyl chloride spilled. 3 weeks later, he has the same concerns as many we spoke to: fear of the unknown and concerns about long-term impacts.
Everybody wants answers. I want answers. Is it safe for my 2 kids? Is it safe for my neighbor, my dogs, my cat? But we can't get it.
And that was Bennett Haberly reporting. The EPA also plans to introduce some new methods to doing air sampling, not just that continuing air monitoring, in an effort to ease people's concerns. The EPA will require Norfolk Southern to sample for dioxin, a problematic pollutant that has been a concern of the people who live there now for weeks. You can find updates at any time on 10tv.com or on the free 10TV app on this particular issue. Now let's keep it moving and go to closing arguments. Those are coming this week in the federal racketeering trial involving former Ohio House Speaker Larry Householder. Householder spent 2 days testifying in his own defense. 10TV's Brittany Bailey asked Householder why his claims conflicted with other testimony.
Your testimony yesterday did not match some of the previous witnesses. Who's lying in this case?
Who's lying? Well, I know I'm telling the truth.
Prosecutors pressed on that truth. During questioning, Householder tried to distance himself from the 501c4 group, Generation Now, and from influence by First Energy Solutions. Here are 3 things that came out of testimony this past week. Hotel receipts show Cleveland businessman Tony George paid for Householder's room during his inauguration trip, where he also took the First Energy plane to get there. He says he thought the Ohio Republican delegation paid for it. Call logs the FBI extracted from Householder's phone show several calls to Attorney General Dave Yost were deleted. Householder said he did that to save storage space, not to conceal evidence. Again, the jurors will get instructions on Monday, and then closing arguments take place on Tuesday. You can find our full coverage of this trial, the Householder trial, online right now at 10tv.com. Senate Bill 1 now moves to the Ohio House. The bill is aimed at overhauling the Department of Education and State Board of Education. Governor Mike DeWine would name the director to oversee the new department. Supporters say Ohio schools aren't getting the job done and a change is needed. Opponents say this bill lacks specifics.
The education system we have is very, very complex. To educate over 1 million kids, all of these thousands of teachers, and it requires us to be very deliberate, conscientious, and as sure-footed as we can to ensure that the changes we enact produce the intended results.
I think this legislation is curing dandruff by decapitation, and I think we could develop workforce programs within the existing program that would benefit our students, both short-term and long-term.
A new effort is underway to fight human trafficking in Ohio. The Ohio Attorney General's office is teaming up with Mount Carmel Health System to train healthcare workers to know the signs of human trafficking and how to help those patients. 88% of human trafficking survivors come in contact with the healthcare system at some point. Survivors help put the training videos together.
We're fragile, we're broke. We need that compassion, that love, that care, not what we did, but what happened.
So one of the things in this fight that we're always looking for is a trust environment to bring a survivor into a place where they have support or services. And you know what? I'm an old prosecutor, I'm a law enforcement guy, but I have learned that a bust or a sting is not exactly a high trust environment for a survivor.
This training program will be used in hospitals across the state. Healthcare workers will learn what to do and what to ask when they think someone may be a victim. We now know of at least one school district in our state that's been given the green light to arm their teachers. The state officially approved Benjamin Logan Local Schools 24 hours of curriculum. 10 TV's Richard Solomon shares how soon this will take effect.
One thing Stephanie Snyder knows is that her greatest accomplishment is being called mom.
Our most prized possessions are our children.
Her daughter is a 6th grader in Benjamin Logan Local Schools. It's a small school district in Logan County, nearly 15 minutes from Bellefontaine.
Anything that they can do to keep our kids safe, I am fully in support of.
Since last year, the district has worked towards adding an armed response team made up of school employees. And now?
That's why we like the layered approach of having SROs and a trained armed response team.
Superintendent of the district, John Shue, says that thought will be a reality. He says the state approved the school's curriculum for an armed response team. They're now in the process of working out a scheduled time for the roughly 22 volunteers to take the 24 hours of required training. The training includes scenario-based training, mediation, de-escalation, and handling critical incidents, just to name a few.
20 years ago, I don't know if anyone would have thought we even needed police officers or deputy sheriffs in schools. At this day and age, it's we have to think about it. We have to act on it.
Shue says volunteers have hundreds on top of hundreds of hours of training already with the sheriff's department. Once it's all done, they'll be able to carry a concealed handgun on school grounds. It's a tool they'll have, but one they hope they'll never have to use, and that gives Snyder some ease.
I feel very confident that we will be safe.
That was 10 TV's Richard Solomon reporting, and he's told that training will happen sometime this spring or summer. We'll certainly keep watching and keep you posted. A push to put a life-saving tool in your neighborhood. One Central Ohio family is turning a tragedy into action.
And he never got to meet my kids.
What this family wants to put in your home that could save others, and how Ohio lawmakers are joining in that effort. Welcome back. When Buffalo Bills player Damar Hamlin collapsed on the football field in Cincinnati, he was saved by people who knew CPR and who had quick access to an AED, which shocked Hamlin's heart back into rhythm. Many of the places that you and I go every day don't have an AED because there's no law that requires them. An Ohio lawmaker has plans to reintroduce a bill this session that would mandate AEDs in schools, but not for businesses. As 10 TV's Kevin Landers explains, a local woman who lost a loved one to cardiac arrest is calling for change.
1, 2, 3.
The scariest part of sudden cardiac arrest,
so you want to keep your elbows locked,
is that every minute a person doesn't get a shock from an AED or automated external defibrillator.
Attach pads to bare skin.
Their chance of survival is reduced 7 to 10%.
The defibrillator is what's actually going to reverse the cause of the cardiac arrest. CPR is buying us time and giving us a viable patient for that defibrillator to restore that normal cardiac rhythm.
Also called a doctor in a box because it tells an untrained person how to use it, this life-saving machine wasn't there when Jill Hutchinson's father, Van,
and he never got to meet my kids,
collapsed inside this Lowe's store in May of 2001.
I believe that it would have made a difference possibly in my father's life. I was actually told that at the hospital, but between the time the squad got there and the time that he got to the hospital, he was pronounced dead.
Nearly 30 states have mandates that AEDs be placed in specific businesses, not Ohio. Sarah Bops teaches CPR and AED training across the state.
I train pharmacists for 5 different major companies, and not one of them have AEDs in all of them.
She believes it's time Ohio mandates AEDs.
I'm actually trying to get in front of somebody in the state of Ohio that can recognize that there should be a bill that mandates that there should be an AED in any company that deals with pharmaceuticals in Ohio, period.
When a woman was shot to death at this strip mall on Sunbury Road in January, an employee at this urgent care told us there wasn't an AED in the store, so we ran next door to the Kroger to get one. Places like the BMV, places of worship, even schools aren't mandated to have an AED.
1 in 50 schools is going to experience a sudden cardiac arrest event each school year.
Nurse Sarah McGraw-Timmis is the health coordinator for Lancaster City Schools. Here, every school has 3 AEDs, which she says is unusual.
Do you think that should change?
Yes, I do. I think every school should be furnished with AEDs.
Mary Newman is the president of the Sudden Cardiac Foundation.
Making AEDs mandated in places of large gatherings, it's absolutely essential.
She says when someone provides CPR immediately, survival increases 30%.
And when people use an AED immediately, it goes up to 50%.
The high cost of an AED was once a deterrent for many to own one. Experts say not anymore.
If you can afford an iPhone, you can probably afford an AED.
Step 1. Cardiologist Dr. Michael Jolly has seen firsthand the power of an AED.
There are many times patients have a cardiac arrest and we shock them and they're back to being fine.
He says many public places do have them, but more are needed.
Would it be great if there was a law that would kind of mandate as a building code or something if X number of people were here? I think it'd be great. These things save lives.
As for Jill Hutchinson, who lost her 50-year-old father to sudden cardiac arrest.
I wonder what if.
What if her dad would have been in a store with an AED? In 2019, Lowe's made a commitment to put AEDs in every store. Hutchinson hopes her heartbreaking story will prompt other stores to do the same.
Because you never know where, you never know when, and you never know what time that someone you love or someone you care about could have a sudden cardiac event, and having something like this on site could save their life.
Kevin Landers, 10 TV News.
And another concern about sudden cardiac arrest is that 70% happen in the home. Yet even with a doctor's prescription, most insurance companies won't cover the cost of an AED. The Ohio Casino Control Commission released the January revenue reports for sports gaming and casino gaming. Gamblers in Ohio bet $1.1 billion in the first month of legal sports betting. Most bets were placed on apps. And because of that, the state will get about $21 million in tax revenue. Ohio's 4 casinos showed a total of $86 million in gaming revenue in January. Honda is expanding in our state. We will detail what's being built in Jeffersonville.
Plus, it's a move the Biden administration hopes will solve 2 problems. 1, the need for more skilled workers, and 2, the need for access to affordable, high-quality child care. I'm Lindsay Mills in New Albany. I'll have the details coming up.
Let's build tomorrow! And that, friends, is the moment Honda broke ground on its new battery plant in our state. Construction now officially underway in Jeffersonville. It's a $4.2 billion investment, adding to the tech industry that's now booming in Ohio.
So we're celebrating the beginning of a plant that's going to be built behind us. This plant is going to have over 2,200 people employed. It's going to be several $1 billion worth of investment. We're going to be producing 35 gigawatt hours of battery per year. That can power upwards of 500,000 vehicles per year. So this is a significant undertaking, and for both Honda and LG Energy Solution, really critical strategic partnership that we're taking place here in Ohio. Just to give you guys some sense of the scale of the plant that we're building, it's going to have, it can fit 78 football fields within the building.
This is Ohio's time. This is our time in history. We're going to continue to bring companies in to Ohio. We're going to continue to see companies that are already in Ohio continue to expand.
Intel is also going to build a big tech manufacturing facility in our state. We've been covering this, of course, and federal dollars are needed to make that happen. The U.S. Commerce Department opened up applications for that money this week. Every company will need to explain how they plan to develop a local workforce. Any company that gets more than $150 million will be required to provide child care. The goal of that requirement is to solve two problems: the need for more workers and the need for affordable, high-quality child care. 10 TV's Lindsay Mills reports on how Intel could play a role and why local child care advocates say they're feeling hopeful.
If semiconductor chip manufacturers want more federal dollars, they're going to have to provide a plan to support their employees with child care. Construction is underway at Intel's self-described mega site in New Albany. In order to support this growing tech force in our backyard, there needs to be a workforce behind the workforce. That's why local child care advocates are applauding Tuesday's announcement from the Biden administration to require companies like Intel to prove how they will support their workers with child care if they want to tap into billions of dollars available in new federal subsidies.
How equitable our growth is depends on how well we answer the call of working families for child care.
Eric Karolak is the CEO of Action for Children in Columbus. He says that support could take several different forms.
Whether that's an on-site child care center, some additional support so so employees can afford child care, or working with child care providers to expand their capacity.
Child care advocates say the timing of this plan is critical.
This problem is getting worse, not better.
Shannon Jones is the CEO and president of Groundwork Ohio. She says they conducted a poll 1 year ago to paint the picture of the problem in Ohio.
60% of women with young children said that they would either work more hours or get back into the workforce if they had access to high quality, affordable child care.
Jones says there's an opportunity right now in Ohio to help parents return to the workforce to grow our economy.
The state that figures this out first is the one that's really going to benefit from the onshoring of manufacturing and reshoring of manufacturing. You can't have one without the other. We need workers. The workers are telling us that childcare is the issue. We need to be responsive to those needs.
And here is Intel's response to Lindsay about this story. Their statement said in part that they already provide benefit packages that include child care programs with tuition discounts at local child care centers and emergency backup child care resources.
Happy birthday, Ohio. All right.
That's right. The Buckeye State turned 220 this week, and Thursday morning, the Ohio History Connection held a celebration at the State House. It included the announcement of the winners of the Ohio History Leadership Award. Among the winners, former U.S. Senator Rob Portman for his work to protect the historic Colonel Joseph Barker House in Washington County. The former senator also brings our Face the State note of promise this week. The University of Cincinnati is home to the new Portman Center for Policy Solutions, an academic center where studies will focus on civility, open and inclusive dialogue, and bipartisanship in politics. Portman said in a statement, he views the center as a means of developing future leaders and encouraging results-oriented public service. Portman's resume may be an example. He served in both the House and the Senate and worked across party lines. So congratulations to him. And we thank you for being with us today.